I'd like to welcome, I would like to welcome everybody here to the Public Works Committee meeting. It is, let me click that. Okay, Tuesday, April 11th, 2023. It is 2:32 p.m. We are conducting this meeting by Zoom. Present here today is Councilman Randy Allison, Councilman Vincent Polizzi, our city engineer, John Sanders, myself, Bonnie Katz. We have our illustrious mayor, Derek Slaughter, and I think, let me go through this, Scott Livermore. We have Scott Livermore from Streets and Parks. We have Janice Frank, our city clerk, and we have our great IT person, Chris Black. On the agenda today, we have 4 items. And the first one on the agenda is an update on plans for City Hall. Mayor, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Councilwoman. How are you?
Doing terrific.
Good. So yeah, we've been working and meeting with folks. I don't want to say too many names or anything on public record, but I've been meeting with a number of different individuals on some potential long-term options, including both structures that are already built that we could potentially rehab, build out or move into, and also some potential build to spec or build to suit options as well. So these are the longer term where we would be to give City Council, when we get to that point, hopefully 5 or 6 different options to choose from, a number of different options to choose from, as opposed to, just 1 or 2 options. So working with John Sander too, getting the square footage, getting it out to some of the folks so they can start to see what our needs would be. Of course, we discussed, the buildings, the transportation where patrol is. We're still working through that process. Obviously, everybody knows that. But if that comes back to us, then patrol could stay there. So exploring options with that with Chief Snyder, because there's a decent amount of land there that will allow the city to do some things on that property, and then continue to look for the long-term situation. Obviously, we have 4 years or so left in our current lease where we are right now, so it's not like we have to know, next week. But again, just start working on this now, so that we can, we're not scrambling at the last minute, trying to figure things out. But it has been good meetings. I've probably met with probably 4 or 5 folks as of right now to sort of get it on their radar and see what possibilities might be out there for us. So that's sort of, I think everybody, council obviously is aware that we're having proposals for the current City Hall start to come in. And from my understanding, we'll be receiving a few more of those for us to review and look at that, simultaneously looking for a long-term option for us.
I think I know, I have a couple of questions, but I'd like to open the floor first. Randy, do you have any questions?
Not only particular questions regarding that, just navigating the timing, I guess, so that we, which is difficult to do, but to have maybe more of a sense what our options are as we contemplate selling the old City Hall, so that we can, if we can possibly see some of those other options at some point, the earlier the better, then we can say, hey, well, there's viable things that we can do here.
Yep,
and
absolutely.
I know they're there. It's just,
yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, I'm just not ready to put that out publicly yet because I don't have all that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right. But as soon as literally met last week and the week before, and actually this week, yesterday, it was yesterday, on those. So as soon as I have some concrete information to get over to city council, I will. It'll definitely be sooner rather than later. It's just not
Great.
there yet, but we're working through that. And those meetings are occurring now, so I can get that information over, because I agree with you that, you know, as we're exploring all of these, it would be nice to have everything in front of us. So
Yep.
working
Great.
on that.
Thank you.
Vince.
Thanks, Bonnie. Now, I have questions, but I don't honestly think that I'm going to get answers to them. With respect, because, you know, so many of the questions that I have, they pivot upon third-party members being able to get information to the mayor in a timely fashion that he can then convey to us, which I don't think, you know, it's not there yet. So I guess what the only thing I was kind of wondering is if we had any kind of lead time or time frame to where you might expect some of this information
Hello?
to come in.
Hello.
Yep, Bonnie, you
Yeah.
got a mute. There you go. From the long-term option you're talking, Councilman?
Well, from any of the
Yeah.
options that we're currently working with, right?
Hopefully, we didn't really talk about a time frame, but I would say within the next few months, you know, I would say that's realistic to think, hopefully. I mean, I put in all of the radar, getting them the square footage stuff over to them, parking needs, etc. So that we can start to get at least some initial information back to start to get to you all, and for all of us administration and council to sit down and you know, look at. So I'm going to circle back around with all of them in the next week or two. That way we can keep this moving forward as we're obviously starting to get legitimate offers for City Hall.
Okay.
So say that to say, as quickly and as soon as I can get it, or we can get it, we'll get it to you all, and hopefully very soon.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I didn't really expect anything definitive, because it's kind of that hurry up and wait game.
Yeah.
I understand it.
Well, there's nothing definitive, but other than to say that we are definitively working on options. So, and they all were interested. So everyone that we spoke with is definitely interested in providing us at least with some initial information and entertaining what our needs might be. So that was, I guess, good to hear that nobody just said, no, thanks, we're not interested.
Okay. Good to know. Thanks, Mayor.
Mhm.
Bonnie, I
Okay.
have no more questions.
Okie dokie. One of a couple of questions here. Number one, you know, there is, is that okay? Am I being heard?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I was interrupted by phone calls here today, which blew my mind. So,
Yeah,
but
that was just the office phone.
okay. So anyway, my question to you is, I know you've already gotten a couple of bids that came in, okay, for City Hall. Is it true? And I, you know, because you hear so many rumors, police still in City Hall using the weight room and things like that.
That I'm not, I could check on that. I have to ask Chief Snyder. I don't believe, I don't know. I don't say yes or no to that. I'll check, see if they're using the weight room or not. There's no public use of City Hall. I can guarantee that for sure.
Okay.
100%.
Now, when you're talking about looking for a place for City Hall, we're going to have to justify cost factors, as you well know. How much does it cost to build? Where are we going to go? Or, you know, we own City Hall, for God's sakes. And, you know, there's a whole contingency of people out there that don't want to see us give up City Hall. One of the things that came down from one of the developers, from what I understand, is, you know, because of prevailing world wage, it would cost us about $5 to $6 million to fix up City Hall and bring it up to codes. if a private entrepreneur came into play, it'd probably be about $1.5 million to bring it up to codes, which it really makes you kind of sad that it's in that kind of a difference in cost factors. City Hall should be centrally located, and keep that in mind, should be accessible to everybody. And these are things that we all have to take into consideration. Right now, where we're situated, and you're talking the next 4 years, there is no there's no significant markers that are really saying this is City Hall. I got a little bit frustrated riding down on 3rd Street, going past Trade and Transit 1 and 2, and there's the RVTA flags flying in front of, both the buildings. Now, we're renting that place. We're renting and we're paying, money for the rent. But there's no significant signage as far as saying this is City Hall. And you're hearing people say and asking, how do I get to City Hall? How do I get to this office, to that office? Where is City Hall? I just find it, that RVT has taken it upon themselves to recognize themselves with the buildings. And instead of City Hall being significant for people to see that that's where people are, people want to know where the offices are and conducting business. I rent my store. The person I rent from does not put their name on the building. My name is on the building, as far as, what the business is. So I'm a little bit disappointed. I was this way from day one with this, Derek. That. I wanted the significant signage as far as, what City Hall is. And at that point it was said, okay, we were going to look into it. Well, obviously we haven't been able to, and not probably, it doesn't seem like it's going to happen. The other thing that kind of got to me, jokingly, I said, if anything happens to City Hall, I think we should all have bids on our own chairs that we had in council chamber. Well, from what I understand, our chairs are no longer there. I'd like to know what happened to our chairs.
The chair that I have not seen in council chambers. I could ask Public Works though. As far as the flags on Train Transit 1 and 2, the only ones that they took the ones that were already there and switched over to just say RVTA. So they didn't add any new ones, but the ones that were already there, they just went with the new authority logo. But we could check with Gary Narn zoning to see if we could do a City Hall signage or whatever marker. But they just took the old ones that said River Valley Transit and just switched them over to the new logo. As far as your chairs in City Hall, I'm not aware of anybody taking those. But I could ask Scott. Oh, Scott's right there. I forgot he was on. Scott.
Yeah, as far as the chairs go, I'm unaware of them. Of them being missing. I haven't heard anybody have taken them. But I can look into that.
What are we doing with everything that is in City Hall? What's going on with that?
So we actually just put an RFP. It's getting ready to go out. It might be live. Chris is working on that right now, actually, as far as digitization. So council adopted the policy in December, I think, that allowed us to follow the state statutes on that for digitizing and all of the files. So administration is working through that at the moment. We'll see what RFPs we receive back. Of course, council will be part of that process naturally. Once those start to come in, to get all of those files that we have down there into a digital format, which I believe is the charge of city council anyway, to start to see more digital things. So we're working through that. And then as far as all of the cabinets, et cetera, again, I've talked to administration and we just have to see what's salvageable, what's not, anything we need, anything we don't need as this process continues forward. So, there's just some stuff that's been in there for 60 years that is just no longer needed. I know there was things that when I came into the mayor's office or things that were labeled mayor that just were nothing. So I'm assuming there's many things like that throughout the various departments. Clearly, there are some files that we do need to retain hard copies for life. And so we'll start to separate that stuff out, what needs to be kept in a hard copy format, what can be digitized, and then what can be discarded. And so that process is underway, and we're looking to get a company to assist us with that, very similar to what the county did with the deeds. So if you're familiar, you can now, all the county deeds have been digitized and you can search them very easily on the computer. And so it's sort of what we'd want to do. A similar thing across the board, whether it's community development or finance or the mayor, city council, our files will be digitized. And then if the public or Janice Frank or whoever needs to access something for right to know or just our day-to-day business, it's in a much easier format. Obviously much more timely and efficient to get to that. So it's going to be an undertaking. It's not like this is going to be, an hour or 2 hour process, but either way, we were looking at this. We've been talking about this whole digitizing for a while now, which is why we had council adopt that basically to follow the state guidelines on this. Scott, I didn't mean to cut you off. You were going to say something else there about.
No, I mean, I think you got to hit all the points. Yeah, we're, like I said, I have a dumpster down there. We're trying to discard anything that was broken. That's, like you say, it's 60-year-old stuff. We're trying to get the stuff we know we can get rid of right now. That way it's not on our plate when the time comes. But that's what we're moving forward right now.
And Scott will check, we can check on those chairs, Scott, to make sure.
And I would like not to see the council chambers torn apart until we actually can see what we can do with the benches and things like that. I mean, that's, that was the judge's chambers at that point, and see where we go with that. I think that should be, I mean, there's a lot of offices with a lot of old desks that are falling apart, and I know that a lot of things that are not, even workable. So, but there are certain things that I think, for integrity, I would like to not see just discarded for the sake of discarding. Let's be, as the saying of our town goes, a proud past, with a promising future. So, keep us informed where we're going and what's going on. I think there's, we've got to start making decisions at this point. We can't just sit here with our, twiddling our thumbs, because 4 years is going to go by real fast, and we've got to know where we're going. We can't be these displaced people. And so our city is proud of their city hall, of where city hall is. And that's all I'm asking.
Yep, that's right. Yep. And that's why we've already started. I agree. And we definitely will not rip apart council chambers. That'll be intact.
Okay, fantastic.
The chairs too, yeah. So we'll get all that. We'll get that back to you. So, and as I told Councilman Plizzi, as soon as we have information flowing in, we'll keep that moving forward. We want to keep all this moving forward. So, all right.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda, John, Graphius Run Automated Trash, boy, say that fast, Trash Rack Systems.
Yeah.
John is the Bassett Engineering Company here.
Bassett Engineering.
Oh, I see, he's there.
Bassett, yep.
Yeah.
You mind if I take a quick, let me share my screen real quick to show you what kind of we're looking at here. If you don't mind. Okay. So I have two items today for Graphius. One is the one that we're talking about here with Bassett Engineering, possibly. It's a discussion only item. The second one is a purchase. So this is what we're going to try to get away from Graphius Run. All right. What you see here is pictures of Graphius Run flooding over the years. That's Cherry Street looking southwest during a flood event when Graphius Run overtops. There's Cherry Street looking west. Same thing. Cherry Street looking towards Brandon. We're putting half of water there running down the street. Brandon Ave. A river running down the city street. There's Cherry Street in Glenwood. Cherry Street in Glenwood again. So you guys get the immensity of the problem here. It's extremely serious. And there's a lot of flooding that occurs downstream of the two inlets. So that's what we're here to discuss today. So the first item is a discussion only item from Bassett, or I guess in regards to potential trash rack systems. I put out a request for proposal to design and permit and bid out solutions for a trash rack system. So obviously, as most everyone knows now, we have two trash rack systems at both the east and the west inlets that are required people to sit in the systems to physically manually grab the debris. What we're looking at doing is installing automated systems, and Britt Bassett is familiar with this, and that's why I assume he submitted a proposal. They do this for you. So what you're seeing right here as I'm circling around it is an automated system that as debris comes up to the trash rack system, it goes up conveyor belt and it gets dumped off to the side. There's several manufacturers I've looked into. I know Britt's looked into more. There's another one right there. The gentleman's building it. Looks like he's welding it. Debris comes downstream, goes up against the system, stops, gets brought up and shot up to the side automatically. So that's what we're looking at doing. And I know Britt has done similar work like this in the past, and I'll let him discuss it further if he'd like to.
Thanks, John. Sure. So we've done a number of systems. These are the most common similar types of systems are used at wastewater treatment plants. They're also used at water treatment plants, on river intakes for water treatment plants. And the idea being is they aren't automated. They're just generally just perforated, parallel racks of bars. They're called bar racks sometimes. And debris catches in the bar. And the automated part is an automatic rake that grabs the material, pulls it up the bars. The bars are inclined back downstream a bit. And then once they pull it off the rack, they dump it off the back side. And what we looked at, a couple of pictures show them dumping on a conveyor belts so that the material is automatically conveyed away from the center part of the channel. And then it could be put in a dumpster, it could be dumped on the ground. There's all sorts of different ways as to how to handle what comes off the conveyor. So you have the screen itself and then some sort of conveyance system. And they're set down, in the case of a stream, they're set down in a channel in the stream. The channel bottom extends below the stream bottom so it doesn't scour out. You probably put some riprap on either side of the channel to keep it from eroding. Then you make the screen at least as wide as the channel is upstream. Concrete structure, the devices are mechanical systems. There are several companies that make these type things. Conveyor belts a little bit more generic because there's more people that make conveyor belts. And but these are used. This has been done a long time for I say the most common application is sewage treatment plants. That's a little different because they're in a concrete channel coming before the treatment plant. I'm sure the city's two treatment plants have them. And then probably the second most common application is where people use river water for drinking water, where the water intakes for them.
I've also seen it being used in dam intakes as well, Brett.
Yes, exactly.
Yep. So again, like I said, we have two proposals for this, for design of everything, bid, permit. It was very likely that DEP, Department of Environmental Protection, will require a GP11 permit for a permitted structure in the stream. And then bidding as well. Brett has you can see the proposal. I have sent it to all council folks. Like I said, we're not voting on this go around, maybe in 2 weeks. We'll see what your guys' thoughts are. Brett had, obviously right here, if you can see my cursor, I'm circling one of the pickers right there, the manual pickers that we have. And this one, that's on the east branch. On the west branch, Brett has located a area just upstream of the current inlet. He's trying to locate areas where he'd like to place these. And by these, I mean the ones that we already have in place, the manual ones would probably stay. These would be located just upstream a little further to manually, or to, excuse me, to automatically get rid of the debris that's coming down the stream. So, yeah. Any questions?
Randy? Randy, do you have any? You're muted.
I got it. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, conceptually, the picker on the east side will be up where the rack is now, but on the west side will be upstream.
Yeah, so on the west side, which would be the inlet near to Cochrane School, it would be
Yeah.
up the channel a little ways. And the one on the east branch, which is the one near the church, as you can see on the screen there,
Right.
would also be slightly upstream, a couple hundred feet. I mean, this is a conceptual location on the proposal. I mean, it's going to take some design, some back and forth with the Department of Environmental Protection, some other folks to make sure we hone in on the right location.
Yeah.
These are just conceptual locations that Bassett is, included in the proposal.
Yeah. And so, I know you're familiar with sometimes the amount of debris and the types that we get, and there's some substantial things. So I assume the specs for this will meet the demand that may put on it. And are we also considering where these are going to be operating? You don't necessarily need somebody on site, is that what you're saying? So would we, if there wasn't anybody there, would we have a camera system to be able to monitor that in case there was some kind of, event that things started to pile up?
I would assume so, Brett. I'm guessing in the installs on your previous installs in your career, I'm assuming they had cameras pointed right at these things. I'm guessing yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have cameras, sometimes you'll have you always have some sort of level sensor on the stream itself. The water comes up too high, it triggers an alarm of some sort.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is part of the project, correct, John?
Right, yeah.
We'll be talking about that in a couple minutes.
Oh, okay, all right, good, okay, all right. Well, that's all I have for now.
Yep.
Vince?
Yep, I had just a couple quick questions. And I'm assuming that your name being on the name of the engineering firm, probably know exactly what you're talking about. The preferred locations that were selected for these trash rack cleaning systems, I saw one being there, at the church. Now I noticed the location selected was not the location where we currently have the whatever you want to call it. I don't want to call it a backhoe, but the manned operated, what do you call it? Just a scoop?
Picker.
The picker? Yeah. Okay. I'm just asking, Mr. Bassett, if you could give us just some sort of an insight on why you selected these particular locations versus, say, the trash racks right there at Cochrane School.
Well, these are just a couple of photos we put in the proposal to show that we've given little thought. Neither location is set. That's something we'd be working out with the city in conjunction with the city. I will say that the first location, the left-hand picture that's above the church. That's a city street there, so you have public access to that point. Part of the consideration is try to minimize tying up someone's property, even a church property. Like, in other words, rather than going downstream in the church parking lot, that one seems like a location that's pretty much out of the way and it's not negatively impacting any immediate neighbors. But you do also have a public street to get back to it. You don't have to go drive through the church parking lot to get to it. The other location where it's obscured by the woods, that's close enough to the road that you could set up a screen and part of your setup is going to be somewhere for this system to dump the material to. So this looked to us like somewhere where you can have the screen on the channel itself, and also have some room off to the side for the dumping spot. And I say it could be put in a dumpster, whatever it may be. Yeah.
And like I just want to, for the public, these aren't set in stone locations. These are just conceptual locations that Britt thought were good locations. They may or may not change if we go forward, and we might have a reason that they do change. And just these are included in the proposal, like locations that he thought were good. They might have city reasons, or a DP might have reasons where these are moved upstream, downstream, whatever.
Okay, I guess what my curiosity had gone to, were these the two locations that throughout the flooding, throughout the time, John, that you've been there in your position, that you identified these particular two locations as the main culprits of what are causing the backup, of the racks that are currently in? Are these the two locations that constantly have the debris that backs up that causes the flooding? I guess that's what, in my mind, they would be the most, the obvious places to put any of these rack systems would be the places that are continuously and always are the ones that are clogged up and cause the flooding. Right.
The one on the left is within a stone's throw, literally a short stone's throw from the existing one. That's on the east branch. The one on the right image you see here on the west branch is a couple hundred feet upstream of the inlet at Cochrane. So to answer your question directly, yes, this is where they would grab all the debris. Yep.
I know we were having issues there, and I'd seen to where we had removed a bunch of debris. I was honestly a little upset at how much non-biodegradable debris, obviously things that came from upstream that didn't come from nature, the amount of tires and other garbage and refuse, that it was just frustrating. Yeah, it was very frustrating.
Then I could capitalize on that too. The other idea of trying to move these up a little bit is, I kind of suggested that to John too. I didn't want this to be our last line of defense. So if it did come up and over, went around, it still had a chance to catch the debris above the existing rack, because at the racks at that point in time, that's when she goes under the city. So I'd rather have a fail safe too. I mean, to put it up above it, if something would happen, it still has a chance to get around and go downstream to go before it goes under the city at that point. Or underneath the ground, I guess it would be.
Yep, some sort of manual redundancy. Okay.
Yeah, just didn't want that to be, if we put the racks there, that's the last line of defense. If something happens, it's still gonna go over at that point, because that's where she starts going underground.
Gotcha. Okay. Hey, I appreciate you. Go ahead, John.
As Britt mentioned earlier, this isn't just a slap it in, turn it on, let it go. It's gonna require some structural design on his end for a U-channel, concrete U-channel, some structural design there, size that appropriately. So the water's coming correctly into the system if it go there. And so it's not just strictly the machine itself, it's the componentry that's gonna channel water into it as well. So keep that in mind.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. Oh, and then the second question I had too, since, I'd like to know, Bonnie, Randy, if the mayor's still on, because this has to deal with stormwater and flooding. And now Williamsport Municipal Water Authority has taken over, the charge to the city and to the residents, to the businesses, I guess, in an effort to replace a lot of the infrastructure for whether it be water, sewer, stormwater, whatever it may be. Is the water authority going to assist in the incurred cost for some of this?
Over the years, they said no.
That's a
Well,
good
I guess I could understand in the previous years if they said no. Because,
That's why I said it that way.
Yeah, in the previous years, if they said no, I guess I can understand it. But now that they are also, have been given the ability to implement the charge to all the residents and to the businesses, and my understanding is part of their charge to justify the stormwater charge fee, whatever it may be, is to handle a lot of this. The components that deal with stormwater, the infrastructure of stormwater, the mitigation of aspects of flooding, you know what I mean? Those kind of things. So I'd kind of like to see if we can't reach out to the water authority and see what they're going to do, if they plan to do anything. And if they do, absolutely great. If they don't, I'd kind of like to know why, at least what the justification is for why not.
Well, one of the things that they said in the past is, and this is when we signed over stormwater to the water authority, is that they are responsible for things underground. We are responsible for things above ground. And that's how it has been stated. Randy, can you attest to that?
Yeah, that was always the understanding. I think where we should start is probably with the agreement we have with them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And let's go through that and see if that spells out anything that would give us some kind of guidance there and direction. And then we could, if there's room for discussion, then there is.
These are all fantastic points.
We don't want to close the door completely. We do want to talk about it.
I think it's a discussion for the water authority. I think you guys have kind of hit it on the head that I think it's a stormwater conveyance in pipes situation over here versus a perennial stream situation over here. And if that's a discussion, we need to first look through the agreement that was approved a couple of years ago, and then maybe dig a little deeper. Those are good points.
Exactly.
Whether it's above ground or below ground at any point in time, if it floods and it backs up and then it runs down the street, well, then it's obviously above ground until it hits a stormwater box later on down the street and goes below ground, and and just adds that much more volume. But okay. Oh my God, I just did one of those nervous laughs, didn't I? That's a first for me. All right.
Oh, can we record that?
No, with that, I'm going to stop talking now.
Oh my gosh. Randy, the other question that I have for Brett, and this is where I'm going to you, because we've been talking Graphius Run for gosh, how many years? You and I have been on council.
Long time.
And one of the things that I talked to Brett about this, I called him and talked to him. We did have another engineering company or two that did do a proposal with a trash rack. Remember that years ago that we had the meeting? And one of the things that they proposed with that trash rack was huge. I don't remember, but it was huge. Remember, Randy?
Yeah.
That we didn't want to see those in the neighborhood because it just looked horrible.
Right.
And not only did it look horrible, but the cost factor, and this is where I said to Brett, please don't quote me on it, but I think each one, they wanted either 2 or 4 of these trash racks, and they were going to be like 2 million each. Something in that ballpark.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact figure, but yeah, they weren't aesthetically pleasing at all. These seem to be more streamlined and less conspicuous.
And I think that's what we're looking for at this point. We want something that's not going to be right smack in the neighborhood's face.
Right.
Where it looks like this monster coming out of the ground.
Exactly.
And it's something that's going to work efficiently. I think our problem, and Scott Livermore, this has a lot to do with what we have coming down the pike from Loyalsock. A lot of our problems do come from the trash that comes down from Loyalsock, and I don't know if we're ever going to solve that problem. I mean, it just keeps on continuing. As Vince said, you're looking at tires and so many other things that just create havoc with our neighborhoods. That's the question I have for you, Brett. Is this going to be okay to deal with objects like that? Tires. We've had trees. We've had God, some of the things were unbelievable that came down. We've even had appliances, remember? That float down. I mean, is this trash rack going to be able to work with things like that?
Well, again, we haven't designed this particular type. So you're talking about a larger debris sort of a trash rack for a stream channel or a dam intake is by definition designed to handle larger material. We haven't started design, so I can't tell you exactly what they'll be able to handle. I would certainly think they'll be able to handle a tire. That seems logical that they'd have to handle that pretty routinely. Trees, no, and that's really the rub, as you mentioned, with any sort of, the entire world is dealing with logs and trees floating down. The thing is, it'll probably be a much bigger wreck than what you're seeing. I mean, in terms of openings, not necessarily taller, but it certainly seems to want to be a bigger wreck than what you have now with that little the one at the church, which I've driven by that by 1,000 times myself, and you're gonna look at something bigger, more robust than that. But if you're talking about trees coming in, I still think you're talking about having a backhoe to come get that. So, really major storms, and that, part of the question about manpower, you're still gonna have to keep an eye on this in a major storm. This should, part of what does any sort of trash rack in is just an accumulation of minor stuff that if it's a manually clean screen, it's hard to keep up with it, and the big storm comes along. A screen like this is going to keep the routine stuff from accumulating. It's very good at that. It probably can handle something the size of a tire. A tree, no, it's not going to be able to handle a tree. I mean, if you saw the ones that were in those photos, that's not what anything's geared for. But sticks and branches, yeah, I would think so.
Okay. Well, I think I'm making this statement because I think we've all seen what has come down and what we have to be prepared for at times.
Yeah, we need one that can handle a Buick.
But I've seen ones at bigger waste. I've done some pretty big treatment plants many times the size of Williamsports. I have seen them take tires off of racks like that. Yes.
If I could jump in here real quick, Bonnie, I personally would feel a lot better seeing something that's pretty robust that could easily handle quantities of tires. In my years of dealing with some of humanity's finest, I've come to believe that to never underestimate the predictability of stupidity. And when I say that, I mean that it wouldn't surprise me in the least that when people know that there's a big rainstorm coming, rather than be responsible and dispose of their tires responsibly, say at the local transfer station, if they have access to a creek, they know that's about to flood. Sure, go ahead, put all your garbage and everything down by a creek, let it flood away and get carried downstream, and you can claim negligence and that you didn't know, and now it's somebody else's problem. Something else, John, I'd also like to know is if LoyalSock is going to be looking to institute or implement these kind of rack systems, or if they're going to assist in the cost of paying for these, since seeing how close we are to the lines, the municipality lines, and knowing that a lot of debris that flows down that contributes to clogging may possibly come from LoyalSock.
Yep. I'm going to circle back here in a couple of weeks with looking into a little more in depth the size of the debris these systems can handle, possible collaboration with LoyalSock, number 2, and number 3, a total cost to build this system. Good cost estimate. Obviously, if you scroll down a little further on this proposal, you'll see design fees from Bassett. That's to design it, bid it, and get it out to the street to the contractor. But what you don't see is total cost to build. So I'm going to work on those 3 things: size of the debris that these systems can handle, total cost, and possible collaboration with LoyalSock. So, yep.
John, does this take care of not worrying about where ponding is going to be? Or do we still need ponding?
Oh, no, no. Well, this will help. Will it? We have a separate contract with WSP right now. They are sizing those potential basins upstream right now. They are 2/3 of the way done with it. They are going to be presenting me a final deliverable very soon on the size of those basins. We'll actually be bringing you portions of that Thursday evening for a discussion in an executive session. So.
Okie dokie.
John, last thing, Bonnie, I promise. It's my understanding that
As long as you don't laugh.
I'll smile. I didn't laugh.
Okay.
It's my understanding that the diameter of the pipe that we buried to handle the water flow of Graphius Run, that when we look at the volume of water coming down through the flooding, when it's measured and compared to the diameter of the pipe that's there, that the pipe diameter itself is adequate enough to handle the volume of water flowing through it. It's just a matter of keeping it clear and free of debris. So I would think that if
Number
we
one
put,
concern, the debris, you're right.
if we put a couple of these trash rack cleaning systems in line in an effort, a coordinated effort with Loyal Sock, I would think that would, would completely keep everything free and clear, and that the idea of buying out vast amounts of real estate property to put in catch basins would hopefully be a moot point at that time.
Yeah, I agree. We'll show you some more stuff on Thursday night, and yes, starting to believe that as well. Not just believe it, but can show you from engineering calculations that same thing is.
I wish I would be there to see the math. I always
Well,
like
we
seeing.
don't do it by hand anymore. You let computers do it for you.
Okay. Oh, I've laughed, Bonnie. I'm sorry. All right. I will let you.
There we are.
All right. That's it from me. Thank you very much, John. Thank you, Mr. Bassett. I appreciate you taking the time to answer my questions.
Does anybody
thank
have
you.
does anybody else have any questions? With not, Mr. Bassett, thank you very much. And it's always an education, and it's a much needed problem that has to be solved here. We've been dealing with this for decades, so we've got to
Absolutely.
solve this.
Yeah, I
Bonnie,
understand.
I want to add one more thing. Bonnie, you are right. You are right. Back in 2014, 2015 timeframe, R2 had started to develop some conceptual designs for this exact thing. I'm not sure where it went. Obviously, I don't think the city had the cash in hand to actually physically make it happen. Now we do. So if we do, now's the time to get it done. Now we have this ARPA money available to us. Now would be the time to get it done. So you're right. Back in 2014, I have used some of those images in this request for proposal that R2 had created, 6 years ago, whatever it was.
And at that time, there was no way we could afford it.
That's correct.
No way. Well, I thank you all very much. We will go to the next item in our agenda, which is number 3, resolution awarding WSP amendment for Graphius Run instrumentation. John,
John, you're still. Oh, you
Yeah,
meant
no,
to share.
I still want to share a screen, actually.
Okay.
Yes, I have that on purpose. So this is just a resolution. So WSP, like I had mentioned earlier, is starting to look at potential basins upstream. After a flooding event a couple months ago, their VPs came to me and Scott and said, and we were very adamant about the debris problem and needing alert systems, et cetera. And they came to us with a solution. So we already have an existing contract with WSP for approximately $60,000 for those basin designs upstream. This would be an amendment to the contract in the amount of $157,632. So this would be an amendment contract for $157,632. And this is what they're going to look to do, not look to do, to actually do. And then when I say they would be a one-stop shop, meaning WSP. So WSP is a global firm of 15,000 people all over the world. Handful of them came and presented to myself, Scott, and the mayor a few weeks back. So what you see on your screen, if you can see it in front of you, are the two drainage areas, watersheds, it's the same word, for both the west branch and the east branch of Graphius Run. What we're looking to do here is put some instrumentation in the stream itself that alerts Scott and his guys to when the water's coming up, not allowing it to happen when flooding has already occurred or there's a ton of debris up against the screens, but when water is starting to come up, so that they have that capability. And that's what this exact proposal is for. So I got a lot of screen room here, sorry. They've done this numerous locations. One location is in Canada, Ontario. There's another global representation here. Virginia, Nashville, Tennessee. The specialist who presented this was actually from Tennessee, actually. Chattanooga, New Mexico. And what these are right here. These little sensors right here. They're solar powered sensors that get attached to a physical item out in the woods, so to speak, whether it be a tree, utility pole, or a metal pole, whatever. And they have a sensor that goes from the bottom of them into the stream itself. They sit in the stream and they measure the amount of physical depth of flow over the sensor. Once it hits a certain point, it triggers, it can call, email, text Scott and any people he wants on his streets and parks forces to get out to Graphius Run because we got problems. So we're looking to buy 6 of these and install 4. So put 2 in each branch of, this is what per their recommendation of their engineer who does this all the time, all over the United States and all over the world. We're looking to put these sensors, and I'll get to them back to them in a second, at locations in the watershed. So one down low, another one maybe halfway up the channels, that as soon as the water gets over a certain depth, it sends alerts to Scott and his crews. So they look like this when they're all said and done. Let me scroll down to it and I'll show you. You have this presentation too. This is what the systems look like. They are solar powered. They power themselves. They're apparently they won a Department of Homeland Security award for them. Like it says here, they transmit water level and telemetry data via cellular network. So this is just more mounting hardware and whatnot. There's the sensor that actually goes in the water. So if this was passed, their VP said this was passed, their engineer would fly here from Tennessee, scope out locations, and he would order 6 of these. But we're looking to put 4 in and keep 2 for backup. And they look like this in the field. So here's one right here, mounted along the side of a stream, and there's obviously a sensor in the water. Once it gets up to a certain level, it starts to send alerts to whomever you'd like it to send alerts to. So this whole package, like I mentioned, is $157,632. And this is just the work order, and it mentions what. Let me just scroll through here. Sorry. They will be the ones that will be planning and designing the system and calibrating it and installing it and acquiring and installing the sensors. So I know Scott was pretty impressed by what they can do. They can do a lot more than what we need. These sensors are actually placed on huge river systems. This would be one of their smaller applications that they told me as well. But they can actually, not only can they get water depth, they can actually show you flooding extents, and they have a whole bunch of other capabilities that we're not buying into. We didn't need all that. We just need the alerts. When the water gets to a certain depth, that way Scott knows, oh no, the water's coming up. Let his guys know. So
to piggyback off of that, obviously what the system is a little bit bigger and better on what we got. So what we have out there now is essentially a float system, right? So it has a potential to get debris and other stuff in it, which we had that issue recently. These are buried into the stream bed to test the pressure. So once it reaches a certain pressure, therefore it notifies me. And the reason why putting it upstream, 2 of them on each stream bed, I'll get notified a lot sooner than the 12th hour when stuff's, really happening. So there's nothing that can clog on these or anything like that, because they are buried into the stream bed to an extent to where they can't get knocked off or broke or anything of that nature.
Okay. Hey, Scott, are you able to speak to what's the usable life of these sensors? Are we buying these sensors? Are we leasing them? We buy them? Okay. What's the usable life of these sensors?
John, I don't remember, what did they say when we had that meeting?
I'm trying to look for it now, see what the usable life is.
And I saw they run on a cellular network, so I'm assuming that there's some sort of a monthly payment plan for the service for everything.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to that right now. It's an all-in price.
Okay.
The instrumentation is 89,000. The alert, the tech stuff is 24 grand, and the 3-year calibration is 33 grand. 33 grand for a grand total of 157,632. It's all included.
So this is for 3 years.
For 3 years, yes, ma'am.
Now,
How
would we
Are
look,
they crime, are they crime proof?
No, they're not. So we would have to be selective about where we would place them. I'm gonna guess Scott would protect them pretty well.
Yeah, there's gonna have to be some thinking about where we put these, because obviously there could be somebody or place one on certain landowners, which they'll have to be. And we'll be in contact with them, explaining to them what it is. They can be locked up, but could somebody go up with a ball bat and hit them? Probably, but they really don't know what they are. But that's something we'll look into as they get closer to being installed on, whose land they're on, and as long as we let them know what they are, I think we'll be okay.
Just to let you guys know, they're engineers. I talked to them the other day. They were looking at one set. I'm gonna East Branch and West Branch, one set within the city, another set in Loyalsock. So we're gonna have to collaborate with Loyalsock on that. Hopefully there's a very good chance we'll have to do a little bit of an easement, potential easement with the landowner, or if it's near a road, we don't have to do anything. Obviously, if there's a right of way that's a certain width, we'll keep it within that width. We won't have to do an easement agreement, but there is that potential wherever they're best located up in Loyalsock, the two that would be in Loyalsock, we would have to potentially go that route.
I
You
wonder
said
if,
this is strictly solar. Is there a battery backup?
I don't know off the top of my head. I don't believe there are.
I didn't see it. I never saw it mentioned anywhere.
Yeah, I don't believe it is. I remember when they presented them, it was please, we're going to try to select locations that have good solar power, so they do stay charged. That was one of the items that was stressed. Yep.
John, can we go back to that breakdown of costs real quick, please?
Yeah.
Thank you. So the instrumentation, I'm guessing, is the 89046 for the 4 instruments.
6 of them.
Or 6.
4 to be installed, 2 for backup. Yeah.
Okay, so you're looking at about $14,841 a piece. Now, if we'd be looking to purchase them, if some of them are going to get placed into Loyalsock, does that mean Loyalsock's going to pay for the ones being placed in Loyalsock? Or we don't know that yet?
We don't know that yet. I mean, it's
Okay.
yeah.
Do we know what's the serviceable life of these sensors? Do we know? Like, are we gonna have to replace these next year, 3 years, 5, 10? Do we know?
Off the top of my head, no, but I will get you answers by Thursday. I tell you that right now. I'll get you answers on life expectancy,
Okay,
and also they have a battery backup.
okay, thank you. And then the river signal flood alerts, $24,765. Is that it?
That's the IT stuff that actually sends the message from these little robot looking sensors to Scott's guys.
I'm guessing that's what we're paying for the data plan for the service. For the
Yes,
service, that's the annual data plan?
that's
Or is this for a 3-year? Because I see the 3-year annual calibration. So is that 24,765 the cost of 3 years of service or only 1 year of service?
I'm pretty sure it's 3, but I'll check on that too. I'll check on that as well.
Okay, I appreciate it, and I only ask that way we kind of have an idea on what these things are going to cost us moving forward, so we can make sure we have appropriate funding to, we got an abundance of money. Well, we have a lot of money right now, thankfully, that we can buy these things. I just worry about maintaining them, continuing to be able to afford them. That's all.
Very good points. I will look into those details as far as what the 24K and the 33K exactly mean for you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And life expectancy, John?
And life expectancy, I'm jotting it all down. Life expectancy, battery backup, all of it. Yep.
The cost of what we're buying these out of the general fund money that you guys gave me. The 290 some $1,000, I believe, back when we were doing the budget. That's where this is coming out of to pay for right out of the gate.
That's what I was gonna ask you. It's not coming out of ARPA, it's coming out of general fund.
Yep.
Do we know
Okay.
if there's any kind of grants out there for reimbursement of this material? If there's anything through, through FEMA, through PEMA, because these are instrumentation that we're going to use to hopefully mitigate any flooding possibility?
I'm sure there are. We haven't looked at it right now, but I'm sure there are. There are grants out there, there's brick grants, there's all types of grants for flooding resiliency. But right now, I think this last flood event was not very happy situation for Scott and his guys. I can tell you that right now. This will help give him a lot more lead time before the flooding ever gets that bad again. So
Gotcha.
I think we should put this in our lobbyist hands to look for some funding for this. I mean, you have Keller who was going after, for the levy, but he could also be looking at the same time for Graphius. I mean, you're in constant contact with him, aren't you, John?
all the time, yep. He just got us $8 million for our levy system, and it's already been passed through FEMA and PEMA. So, yep.
And he's got his ears to the ground, so he should be able to find out if there's any kind of funding for for sensors. You would think that there would be for sensors, because this would save a lot of expense and people's lives and stuff like that.
This is a flood preventative measure. I'm sure that it's applicable, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So please ask Keller if there is anything available.
I will
Put
do
that on your notes too, John.
John is down there now.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, we'll go to, where's my agenda here? We will go to number 4 on the agenda, any related items. Does anybody have anything to say?
Bonnie, I'd like to say something real quick if I could.
Gotcha.
That obviously this committee, we didn't vote on anything. This has purely been question and answer, fact finding. And I don't believe in any way, capacity, shape, or form we gave advice or direction or gave advice on anything to do. Just for anybody that might think that we had.
Exactly. And if there's nothing else, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
All right.
Thank you very much. See you guys.
Yeah.
See you. Are
Okay.
you waving, John, or you have something? I guess he's gone. See you
Yeah.
guys.